And good morning, Washington, D.C., my beautiful America, my shining city on a hill. I'm Eden Gordon Hill, and welcome to the All-American Book Club. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still celebrating Christmas in July. Whether you have put on Great American Pure Flicks or whether you've picked up some of our Christmas great reads for the summer, we bring over to you this morning Melody Carlson. She is one of my new favorite authors, first time here at the All-American Book Club. My goodness, she's sold how many different books. Her biography is amazing. Go to melodycarlson.com. But I'm going to show you something here on the screen for those who are watching on the YouTube channel. This is just a smidge of the books that I've been reading of Melody Carlson. And many of you know I've been passing out her books left and right because she's such an amazing author. So Melody, as you are watching me promote all of your books, welcome to the All-American Book Club. So glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, I love the visual. So for all of those who are tuning on the YouTube channel, they can see all of your books behind you. Those are all of your books. Is that correct?
Well, they're not even all of them, but all of the books up there are ones that I wrote. Does that make sense?
My gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. And, you know, where to jump in? We are obviously doing Christmas in July here at the All-American Book Club. And just for our audience, for those who have not signed up for our book club yet, you have the opportunity to not only hear about Melody and many other authors, but you get a sneak peek as to what's coming down the pike. So I just want to encourage you to sign up if you've not done so yet. But what was on that was Melody's newest book, The Christmas Tree Farm: Sisterhood, the Future of the Family, Business, and the Heart of an Old Flame hang in the balance this Christmas time. So this is your most recent book, but I want to highlight some other books too. You had a couple great books come out this summer, but some of them are the oldies and goodies. We have here, and then I'll let you jump in. I'm going to stop filibustering. A Place to Come Home To, the Whispering Pines series, A Mile in My Flip-Flops. I love this one. Happy Camper, Home Sweet Home, and then The Christmas Bus, The Christmas Joy Parade, and A Royal Christmas. Okay, let's just dive in. Do you have a favorite out of all of these books you've written? Is there one that really just stands out close, near, and dear to your heart? Was it your first one?
Well, no, a lot of times I say it always feels like it's the one I'm working on because I'm pulled into that one. But if I had to pick a favorite, it's kind of one of the more serious ones. It's called Finding Alice. I used to write a lot more serious ones earlier in my career, and then the older I got, the lighter I got. Well, I just thought we needed a little more lighthearted things, but I wrote about a lot of issues. And Finding Alice is actually about schizophrenia because my son at 20 was actually diagnosed with it. And so I went through that whole thing with him, and that was actually a long time ago. I'll tell you how old I am, but anyway, but at the time when I try to explain it to people, friends and family, they'd kind of get this stricken look on their face, like, what is schizophrenia? And they had all these preconceived ideas just based on old movies and yada yada. And so I thought, I need to tell this a story. So I wrote Finding Alice, and it was actually optioned by Lifetime and scripted and about ready to go into production. And then they had writer's strikes and wildfires and all kinds of things happened. And finally, and then the screenwriter was about to have a baby, so it couldn't get revisions. So it didn't happen. And I was kind of glad it didn't, because it would be a really hard one to do and to produce. And now that I know, I've done a few movies now, and I think back on it and I think, oh, it was a good thing, because it just, it wasn't ready, and it would have taken quite a bit to have gotten it ready. And I don't even know how they would have done it, but so anyway.
I've noticed with your books, I want to read a little bit of your bio to our audience. And, I've noticed that some of your books have been picked up by some major networks, which I want to share that with the audience. But you are an award-winning author of more than 250 books with sales of more than 7.5 million, including many best-selling Christmas novellas, young adult titles, and contemporary romances. You received a Romantic Times Career Achievement Award. Your novel, All Summer Long, has been made into a Hallmark movie And the movie based on your novel, The Happy Camper, one of my favorites, premiered on UPtv in 2023. And I'll have to be honest with you, my husband, I make watch Great American Pure Flicks, Christmas, and all things. And I just finished reading Happy Camper. I said, I found it on Amazon Prime. We've got to watch it. And he's like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is really good. And he usually is just like, how am I getting sucked into these movies? And I'm like, this is really good. So I want to talk about Happy Camper for a second. I love the story behind it. And what I love about your characters is how you take us to a place of retreat. You take us to a place of, it's a comfort zone, if you will. But you're also, your characters are growing and taking leaps of faith and finding new hope and new opportunities. So share a little bit about your characters in Happy Camper, because I want people to go to Amazon and watch it since it just came out last year.
Yeah, in fact, if you get Up Faith and Family TV, it's on that too. I think it's showing right now. But you know, you have to look it up. Well, interestingly enough, the Happy Camper, the story, I'm gonna tell the story behind the story.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it came up at a time when I think, a little weary of writing, and the whole industry was changing, you know, and it was kind of hard to figure it out. And I was trying to write lighter things, and I one day I was just driving on the road, and I'm kind of like, "Meh," and I saw this old camper, a trailer, little old 63. I can't even remember what it was called right at the moment, but I bought it. I mean, I just walked, you know, I called the number, the guy came out there, and he wanted me to pay cash. And I went to the bank, and he said, bring me a brown paper bag of cash. Kind of haha. And he had the title and everything. So I went and did that. I got a little, you know, like a lunch sack, and put the cash all in it and handed it to him. He didn't even count it. It was right. And then had my husband help me get that trailer home. And we have done renovations on houses, oh my, since we've been married. We've been married 46 years. So we've done a lot of renovations, some for us, some for other people. And I was going to renovate this little trailer because it really needed it. And instead of writing, this is what I'm going to do instead of writing. I'm going to do, you know, old trailers. So I did the whole thing myself, reupholstered, painted everything, you know, and it was cute as can be. And I was just so worn out afterwards. And this book I did just kept kind of percolating in my head. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to writing books now because it's too hard to do this. But I kept the trailer for a while. And oddly enough, there were some hidden stories in the trailer that kind of inspired doing the story. And that's kind of how it came about. And yeah, so I've got a girl who's kind of down on her life, and things aren't going the way she wants, and the guy she thinks should propose to her, even though I don't think she's really in love with him, doesn't. And you know, just one of those stories that starts out wah wah, and then her grandpa gives her this old camper, and she restores it, and it kind of brings her back to life, and she finds a life. So that's kind of
Well,
how that was born. Yeah.
that's what I love about your books, because you focus on something physical that needs to be restored, but then you also focus on the faith perspective of, you know, just what God can do for us in restoring our lives if we've kind of gone wayward, or, you know, if we are struggling with a decision that was out of our control. You talk about that emotional, physical, spiritual restoration. And now I understand how you and your husband have been doing this for 46 years of of restoring things. A Mile in My Flip-Flops makes sense. And so does, and so does Home Sweet Home, because you talk about HGTV house flippers, and you talk about the relationship of Mile in My Flip-Flops and her buying this home that needs to be. And I love the whole scenario. So it makes perfect sense about what you're doing. And I haven't gotten very far in a place to come home to, but you have it set up that she buys this old Victorian home in, or is it Oregon? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I haven't gotten to that point, but I'm having a gut feeling that she's going to be restoring this old Victorian home into a B&B, because I see that there's a 4-book series to this whole scenario. Am I correct in guessing that?
Well, you know, that was my original intent. I actually wrote those a while back, and oddly enough, a lot of the things that I wrote about in that series, I'd write about it, and I was kind of portraying the town that I lived in. And then things I'd write about something and it would happen. Like they had this kind of skirmish over a development. Well, then a year later, that happened in our town, kind of almost exactly the same thing. And then even the lampposts, there's a thing about the lampposts. And then about a year later, we get these new cute little lampposts. And it's so funny. Even there's a scene in one of the books, I can't remember which one it is, these were a while back, where the son finds a runaway girl in the woods. Well, we had a
Mhm,
runaway girl stowaway. We had a tree house where we used to live, and,
mhm.
and it was all pretty nice tree house, really. She was up there, and we found her, and that was after I wrote that. So I was like, I'm gonna be careful what I write. but but she gets so waylaid by different things in life in that series that I can't remember if she actually turns it into B&B or life just kind of takes off on her. So you'll have to read the series.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you have this amazing summer book that just came out. I read it, passed it to a girlfriend who I know would be inspired by it. And then you have this new Christmas novella coming out. What has been your inspiration to write these stories? Is it the day-to-day activity of life? Is it, what really spurred that in you?
It's a little bit of everything.
Mm,
Usually a character will kind of pop in my head, or a setting.
mhm.
Setting to me is real important too. And of course they've got some problem going on and you got to resolve it. And so I don't outline books and know really where they're going. I mean, usually I have a general idea. Like my agent likes to say, it's like a roadmap that all you know is you're going from A to Z, and you
Yeah.
don't know all the stops in between. Well, it's kind of like that.
And that's life. That's life. It
Yeah.
really.
And there's a lot of pieces of my life and other people's lives. And, sometimes somebody I know or a family member will read something and they'll go, oh, that's me, and I'll think, oh, yeah, maybe it was, but I didn't quite realize it at the time. Yeah. And then sometimes they're just really inspired by real life, real people, and I'll even get permission, like the one I told you about, my son's story. It was about a girl, but I had him, read the whole thing and really, but put his okay on it. And I've had some books like that too. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, one story was just inspired by seeing this old classic beat up pickup and a old, like she looked like she was 100-year-old lady, white hair, sitting there, and this young Hispanic guy driving it. And I thought, there's a story there. And I wrote a book called Armando's Treasure, and that was out of that thing. But they just come from everywhere.
Well, let me ask you this. So, as we head into the Christmas season, do you have any sneak peeks that you can share with us? Are there any of your books going to be, turned into films in the coming year, or do you have any new books on the horizon that we can kind of send my audience to in preparation and anticipation?
Well, I think right now I'm working on, I need to really sit down and count, but I think I'm working on my 25th Christmas novella.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a whole bunch to choose from. And the last year's one was called A Royal Christmas. And
Yes.
now this one is a little bit different because it was actually the editors at my publisher that said, we want you to write something like that, something about royalty, and probably because Hallmark's got so many, and
Yeah,
so I wasn't wasn't real excited about it because I don't know, they just, didn't really want to do a Cinderella story per se, kind of. And but anyway, an idea came and I wrote Royal Christmas, and actually I had got such great reactions from it, and I scripted it myself because I had some interest in it. And then it was picked up and it's being produced, of all places, South Africa.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I had to really change the story to fit, going from like an Eastern Europe principality country to South Africa. It was quite a challenge, but I did it, and I haven't seen anything on it yet, but I know she's working on it. And yeah, that there's a lot of Christmas books. I'm trying to think of what they are. They're probably right here behind me. The Christmas Swap, where they trade houses. That's a
Yes.
fun one.
Yes.
Um, Christmas in the Alps. That was really fun because it's in the French Alps and it has to do with this kind of clock watchmaking factory and kind of a mystery and some history during World War II. And this gal
Mm.
goes to try to figure it all out. That's a fun one. Christmas by the Sea is one of my favorites because we used to have a beach house and we spent Christmas there one year, and that's kind of inspired one little part of the story. Yeah, there's a lot of them. You just look at novella and my name on Amazon, you'll see a whole plethora of books.
Yeah, well, what I want to do in the final segment as we head into our final segment here at the All American Book Club, I wanted to highlight a little bit about the Christmas Tree Farm really quickly. So the character, the Madison McDowell, has spent several years overseas teaching English and trying to outrun heartbreak. When she finally returns to her family's Christmas tree farm in Oregon, she hopes to pick up where she left off, but everything has changed. Her family is smaller, the land has been damaged by wildfire, and your younger sister Addie seems determined to sell the neglected property. Complicating everything is the owner of the neighboring property, Gavin Thompson, who wants to turn his land into a noisy and dusty dirt bike track for his daughter, and who also just happens to be her former high school flame and the one who broke her heart. Okay, this sounds like this is going to be really interesting. A lot of tips and turns, but I want to also read this. Praise for Melody Carlson's novels. A Quilt for Christmas brings out all the feels, San Francisco Book Review. I look forward to reading Melody Carlson's Christmas stories every year, interviews and reviews on A Quilt for Christmas. You have so many different great reviews and so many different Christmas books. Is there one, one of the biggest questions I wanted to ask you, is there a favorite part to your Christmas season that you like to bring into some of the backdrop of just some of your Christmas books?
Wow, that's a good question. I think a lot of pieces show up. Um,
Mhm.
as a child, I grew up in a single mom, divorced parents, and not very many people that were in my generation that were going through that at the time, and just one sister. And so Christmas at our house was a little bit bleak because my mom's also a elementary school teacher, so she'd put all her energy about Christmas into her first graders, and I don't blame her. But we had grandparents who had this old Victorian house and loved doing Christmas up big, and all the family would drive over to their place. So I think there's pieces of that show up, and then pieces of sort of the lost little girl with kind of a start my puzzle will show up. But yeah, it's a potpourri.
No, I love it. Well, Melody Carlson, I am so grateful for your writing. I'm so grateful. You have inspired myself here at the All American Book Club. I look forward to inspiring our audience here at the All American Book Club. We look forward to having you back. I know there's many more books coming from you, and I'm excited to have our audience just follow you now on all the social channels. And we thank you for being a part of this. And for all of those who are tuning in here at the All American Book Club, we will be right back. Stay tuned for our next segment. And Melanie, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.